Well, it's come around to graduation time at Still River. Most of the colleges have just all finished their graduation ceremonies and unleashed a whole new horde of young idealists out there. And high school graduation, it's prom time, and they'll be graduating in about 2 more weeks. My high school graduation was not quite like anyone else's. I wasn't a prom goer. I wasn't one of the scripted social group members in the Still River. You know, the real high school education is really about socialization. And, you had your basic high school groups. You had the jocks, the populars, you had the English majors, you had the nerds, you had the auto shop and wood shop folks, and then you had the outsiders and the losers. I didn't fit into any one of those groups. I was kind of in and out. I didn't participate much. I was an observer. While all the kids were out of school doing their clubs, groups, football, soccer, we were out sitting in cars, drinking beer, reading Camus and Kant, and discussing philosophy, which we knew nothing about. And we would read like a chapter and use some of the long words like existentialism. And we called ourselves the roving existentialists. And most of my friends were either atheists, fallen away Catholics, Protestants, or fallen away atheists. And we were into music and art. I hung around mostly the art and music rooms, while the boys were smoking cigarettes in the boys' room, sneaking them after lunch. We were out in back of the auto shop smoking the other kind of cigarettes. And art class was really interesting because we had an art teacher who wasn't too together, and he hung with us on weekends. We'd have to go over the state line to drink. His drinking age over the line was 18, and in Still River it was 21. The line wasn't far away, the state line. It was about 3 miles away. And that's another story. So I had to make up 15 gym classes in 2 weeks. And I was assigned to run around the football field after school every day for 2 weeks to make up those classes so I could graduate. And last 2 days were the toughest. Friends of mine hung out a sheet on the top floor of the high school building facing the field saying, "Keep going, you can make it," When I finally made it, there was a cheer that broke out in the upper window. And that was high school graduation. Another whole story goes with that. Anyway, back in 1947, there was a guy named Wahoo Wahoojinsky. Wahoojinsky. And Wally they called him Wahoo because everything he did was something. And he was, using the term, a party animal. And Wally decided for his high school graduation, Still River had this big gas ball. And it sat down by the railroad station. And it was huge. I think it held natural gas. It was at least 10 stories high. It used to look that way, and at least 120 feet wide at the circumference. And they had a little ladder that can climb the top with a fence around it. It said danger, private property, no trespassing, under penalty of law. And Wally got down there with a painter's harness and a painter's tether, which has like these two huge carabiners at the end of the stick. It's thicker than rope. It's like the kind of rope you would see roping off on your way into a movie theater or a nightclub. And he had a bucket of a pot of red paint strapped to him with a lid on it and a brush. And he got out there about 5 in the morning. And as it got light, somebody saw him and they called the police. The fire department came and the mayor came. I guess he happened to be around. And they're yelling at Wally with bullhorns. Wally, come down from there. If you don't come down now, we're going to come up and get you and arrest you for trespassing, public endangerment, vandalism, defacing private property. They threw the book at him. And Wally didn't listen. And there's these thunderstorms that periodically blew up. One happened about 10 years ago. They're kind of hard to describe. They're very powerful. And they spawn not a tornado, but this other kind of wind event. The Japanese have a name for it. It's like it comes down at an angle and shoots across vertically. And it's like 100-mile-an-hour wind at least. One came down about 20 years ago, north of Still River, and it just blew down a 5-mile swath of trees about a, quarter-mile wide. And then it just dissipates. Well, this storm started to blow up. And they said hail was coming down as big as golf balls. Everybody ran for cover. Wally's still up there on the other side of the ball because the hail is coming down almost horizontally from the other end. And he's still painting. And he's coming around the other side because he just got the class of 47 painted. And he's going to write Wahoo. And he comes around the other side, and this wind tunnel comes down. And it spins Wally around the ball. He's like 1/3 of the way down from the top. And it's spinning him around. He got to the O, and right at the end of the O, a line just goes around the outside of the ball. And with spatters of paint also. And he's just spinning around. And finally it's over, and Wally's hanging there half conscious. And the hook and ladder goes up. And the fireman reaches out this long grappling hook on a long pole and pulls Wally over, and they bring him down. And they said they seen Wally for a year or so working on the city crew picking up trash for you. I guess that was his public service duty, his punishment. And Wally was interesting. He later joined the Navy, became a Navy diver, a Marine welder. And then when he came back, he had a little welding shop in his back yard with a driveway that went up. And people brought stuff to be welded. And he made this little yellow 2-man submarine. And it would sit outside on this little trailer. And periodically in the summer, we would take it out to the town park. It would only go down about 1 foot. And he would ride around in it. And it was kind of funny because you would see this little yellow submarine. And when the Beatles song came out, Yellow Submarine, you thought of Wally's submarine. And there's a story about that later. His nephews got a hold of it after he passed away and got it up and running.